everyone, and thanks for joining us today for the ANA e-learning academy. We're so excited that you all could be here. During the presentation, you may come up with some questions, and if you do, please use the either chat feature or the Q&A at the bottom or the top of your screen. The questions will come in to me, and then I'll share them with Jeff at the end of the presentation. If we can't get to all the questions, I will email them to him, and he can get them answered and sent back out to you. At the end of the presentation, I will be sending out a survey. Please feel free to answer that survey and do it honestly so we can help upgrade these better in the future and have Jeff give him any feedback that he may need. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and he's going to teach on understanding the art of rare coin submissions. Enjoy.
Thank you, Brianna. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the ANA e-learning academy. It's very exciting. Last year and the year before, I believe, I'd gone to Colorado Springs to teach a class, and there were about 20 or 25 students. And with this format now, I was seeing we have over 200 people participating in this. So it really is a great, we can share numismatic knowledge to such a great extent. And also this class will be recorded so other people can refer to it later, and it'll be great content for the ANA. And so I applaud all of those who were involved in getting this going. President Ellsworth has been trying to work on getting online education. This is a great start. So I'm hoping this will be something everybody likes. When I was first heard about the ANA e-learning academy and these classes, Rob Oprah gave me a call and wanted to know if I could teach a class. And he had asked me what subject I'd want to do. And I traditionally have been teaching advanced coin grading. As most people probably realize, advanced coin grading is a little bit difficult to try to do in an online format. I think they did beginner grading this time, and I can see how that could be accomplished, but it would be difficult to do with the subtleties involved. You almost need to see the coins and have them in hand to do a really good job at that. So I thought about different subjects, and the reason I picked this one is it's a subject that I get a lot of phone calls about from actually everybody from people who know nothing about coins, they inherited coins, and I even get calls from people who have been coin dealers for 10 years that ask about this question. It's like understanding rare coin submissions, because it's very, it can be very, very complicated, and it's a subject that I think that people don't even know where to begin if they want to think about maybe submitting some coins. And I wanted to try to put content together to at least make it somewhat so you have a grasp on what, how it works, some of the tricks about it. I've tried to tailor this class so that it will be information. If you're a total beginner, you'll feel like you've got something from it. And if you're experienced, if you're a coin dealer even for a long time, hopefully you'll get, I've been a coin dealer for over 40 years, probably 45 years, getting close to it. So I've been submitting coins since day one when they started back in the mid 1980s. So I have to say I do have it is a subject I'm very familiar with. Have a lot of knowledge on it. So one of the things we'll get going on is understanding it, and hopefully screens here move correctly. One thing that I think that really confuses people, beginners and advanced, is when you see these misleading, they're actually not misleading because they are true, but you'll see a headline like one that happened in 2018, a 1958 MS-67 full bell line Franklin half dollar sold in an auction for $129,500. Now that's a coin that coin graded MS-67 plus full bell lines. You could buy an MS-65 coin for probably $25. So how does a coin go from $25 to $129,000, and why is it worth that much? And and then even myself, I see a headline like that, it makes me wonder. It's like, gosh, I hope I haven't been selling my Franklin half dollars way too cheap over all these years. And then what do I need to do to submit a coin to get a coin to be valuable like that? And I think when people, they see that, they kind of like, they want to start going through their coins and want to try to figure out a way to do that. And it's confusing because there's, that coin is probably like 1 in a million. It's not like, you can send in just a random 1958 half dollars you pulled out for a roll because you thought it was the very best one, and like get an MS-67 plus. And another thing I had also mentioned these things is another reason I wanted to do this class is I go to almost all the major coin shows, and a lot of these major coin shows, both PCGS and NGC have what they call a walkthrough grading, and they do grading and also they take coins that they take back and grade. But there'll be people in line. I've literally walked up in line and see people submitting coins that I know for sure are not worth the cost of what they're paying to have them graded. So the grading companies, I think I'm sure they enjoy the revenue, but then on the other side of it, I've talked to the different people who work at the grading companies, and they said one of the customer service things they deal with a lot is people get very upset when they spend $1,000 in grading fees and they get back, look them up and their coins are worth $500 or something like that. So that can be, very, very frustrating. And also it's not good for anybody when that kind of thing happens. So the more you know about it and trying to learn some of these lessons, I think it'll be also make you enjoy the hobby more, understand how it works a little bit better, and know what, how these things occur like that. When I try to do this class, I wanted to make sure everybody kind of understands what's really involved. And the only thing that comes down to is it's really kind of a mathematical equation. And I do this, I've been doing this my entire career. Pretty much even when I buy a coin, I start with a mathematical equation. How much is the coin? What's the most I can make on a coin? What's the most I could lose on a coin if it's a bad deal? Everything, people don't talk about it in coin collecting that often, but coin collecting really has a lot to do with some basic math, and it has to do with doing the research and figuring out what a coin is, if it's a coin's good value if you buy it, and then if you buy a coin raw and it's uncertified, what will it cost you to get that coin certified, and will it be worth the difference in the cost versus the shipping and the submission fees. For instance, right now, you could ask the people who deal in silver dollars, MS63 silver dollars have a gray sheet bid of about $43 for a certified coin, and an uncertified coin bid is around $38. And so you see the math there. There's only about let's see, that's about $5 difference. Well, it costs more than that to actually get the coins graded and the shipping fees and things like that. So if you had just a roll of a roll of silver dollars that are just like, it could be an original roll, it could be very, very nice, but unless you have a large quantity and have negotiated a really low rate, it's probably not worth sending those coins in on like an economy submission. You would actually lose probably 20% or so. So the math would not be in your favor. A lot of times when I get coins, I also think about the accumulating coins, so I have enough coins to have a larger quantity, so it actually fits these different tiers with maybe some discounts involved in it. It basically all comes again to the math, and we'll talk about it later. But one of the real big math things, if you go to, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, is these people who do submissions at coin shows. Well, those coin show submissions, they call walkthroughs, are very expensive, and those are probably started around $160 to $100 to get a coin graded, sometimes up to $150. So if you send in a handful of coins, you most certainly have to take into account the mathematical equation of the value versus the cost. I'm trying to think what I was looking at. So the one thing, so I want to get started to try to help with people. Like I said, we've got a lot of different people that are on this class. So there's people who are very, very beginners, and there's some of you guys that are probably experienced and know how this thing works. I always tell people, and I know this from experience because it happened. Actually, I had at least 2 phone calls just today of people calling me up that someone just called me about an hour ago, actually, who had found me on the NGC dealer locator page, and they're from Kentucky, and they want to have a piece of currency graded and also 2 or 3 coins. Well, the person inherited the coins and know nothing about the coins, so they just know that they did a little bit of research and it could be valuable, and it's they want to be they want to send it in. And when I think both of the grading services I think they both deal I know they both deal with people in general, the public, but they encourage you to actually go to a trusted dealer or an expert that can help you with the different things they're involved with submitting a coin, which is quite a few things. One of the first things that I do with a person, like this people that call me today, I kind of ask them was, well, what do you have? Because first of all, I want to try to save them a trip. This guy lives about a 3-hour drive away. So I ask him, what are the coins that you have that you think might be valuable and that you want to have looked at? And when and this would be the same thing probably someone would ask you if you were to call in a dealer to ask for advice. And this person had a $500 bill, which is rare and is most certainly worth having submitted to P&G for certification. The two coins he had were a couple of early British gold coins, which may or may not be worth the fees. The coins could easily just be worth their bullion value, which outweighs any fee that if the coins were graded. So with that person, I made an appointment for them to come in. They're going to come in probably Thursday. I'll look at the bill, which I'm sure I'll send it in for them, and then the gold coins I'll need to do some research on because I'm not sure whether or not they'll be valuable enough to be worth that. There are dealers around the country that you can reach out to for this kind of help with authentication, because a lot of the coin dealers have been submitting coins for myself for since I started 30 some odd years ago, and also other dealers are also specialists in different things, and they can tell you pretty fast. It's like like another person called earlier, and they just had some Walking Liberty halves they wanted to have graded, and I asked them about them, and they found out their dad had got them in change when he was working somewhere. And I'd say, well, those are almost for sure not worth having graded, because if someone just got something out of circulation, chances are it's low grade and it's not worth very much. What's confusing is we'll go back to the things. What's confusing to people is almost always what they do is they call me up and they say, well, I looked it up on Google and it says it's really, really rare. And that is I get those kind of calls also almost on a daily basis. One thing that I've done now, and that I can recommend you to do is, and this will come up a couple of times during this class, we can talk about it, but if you have a good phone with a good camera on it, you can get a lot of information from these trusted dealers, some which you picked out in maybe your area, or some which you can, maybe around the country you can help you, is you can take a picture with your phone and text it, and try to take as good a picture as you can, and then send a text of it, and then most dealers probably can tell you with about an 80 to 90% success and accuracy whether or not the coin that you've got is worth you having it submitted. So that'll really help a lot. That's a kind of a good shortcut because it's when you look things up on Google, it's so confusing because the first thing you do is you'll see a coin that, here's a 1943 half dollar that sold for $5,000. Well, it's kind of going back to where we talked about earlier with the 1958 half dollar bringing $100,000. Well, you see that, but without a trained eye knowing the difference in those coins, it's people get very, very confused about it. Plus, also there's a certain amount of trust or distrust that they sell their coin for way too cheap. So people want to be you want to get the most accurate knowledge you can. Other things that trusted dealers can help you with these days that's very, very important is authentication. And authentication, I know for a fact that I've had people come in to show me coins that they'd sent away for authentication. They'll buy 20 coins on the internet and think they got a wonderful, wonderful deal. Then they'll send them to the grading company and they all come back as counterfeit. And that's very discouraging for people, and also, really upsets them that, they spent all this money to find out that, like I said, hundreds of dollars or sometimes even thousands of dollars, and to find out their coin's counterfeit. And this happens a lot these days because there really is quite a bit. Like if you go on the internet, you can find, it's not even just the internet. We have people come into my store that, they got it from a friend, and they make up these stories of they found it maybe at a flea market. But a coin that that they thought was genuine and they were going to make a lot of money on it, and found out that it was not authentic. So that'll help a whole lot. As far as just like starting the whole process of like saving you money from making an obvious mistake of sending a coin in by yourself. And the way that I've got this lesson set up is I'm going to talk through most of the class, and a lot of this is going to have to starting off is going to be working with a trusted dealer that you can find in your area or around the country that you can have access to that can help you with a lot of things. Then later also I'll tell you how we'll talk about sending coins directly to the services. So there's two different ways of doing it. Depending on your situation or circumstances, that may be apply to what you need to do. One thing that this comes into play a lot, and I get this on a weekly basis. A lot of people are inheriting coins, and when people are inheriting coins, they get literally boxes and boxes of coins, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't leave any instructions for their heirs. So a lot of their heirs really have no idea, where to start, what something can be worth, and that's where a trusted dealer can really, really be helpful for you, because for someone I've had people literally spend 2 weeks trying to catalog their collection, going online, looking up stuff, and when they bring it into me, I can go through the collection in about 20 minutes and accomplish more than they did in 2 weeks, and also do it accurately. So that is a really a big issue. And when people are wanting to, it's not uncommon at all for someone to inherit a group of coins, and they can inherit 300 coins, but only 10 of the coins really should be sent in for authentication. But it could be critically important to send in those 10 coins, because those 10 coins values could be the difference between a 64 and a 65 could be 5 times the price of the coin. So that is where it's really, really, really important. And unless you have some basic grading skills, you really have a hard time even knowing where to start. And that is probably one of the reasons that grading coins is probably one of the most popular classes that the ANA teaches, because even if you're a collector, you're not really wanting to, every coin you buy is certified, things, that you've been buying coins for years. Understanding grading is really probably the most basic skill that every collector should at least know the difference between a nice MS63 coin and a really choice one, or one that's not very nice. So all those skills are very, very, very important, and those skills are just as important when it comes to coin authentication. I know a lot of coin companies that sometimes coin authentication can be a very time-consuming process. And if you get coins across the counter and you want to send them in for grading, you got to do that on an ongoing basis. When they hire people to work like the counter work and to break down collections, that's one of the grading skills are one of the main considerations when people hire people to work in a storefront situation. So that is something that you'll see in this during this presentation, how important that is. Even though you're sending a coin off to be professionally graded, having some basic coin grading skills is really important. I went to the shortcut for the authentication things. I'll touch on a couple of the other things here too. So a lot of times when people want to have a coin authenticated, their intention is to sell the coin. They just know from what they've read about or heard about that having the coin authenticated and graded by a grading service, they'll be able to get the most money for it. So that's why I can give also little tips about if you're wanting to, if you inherited a collection, or not even inherited, if say you have a collection that you've been collecting since you were maybe younger, a collection of Morgan silver dollars. Well, when you submit your Morgan silver dollars, you might want to do some research and find out who is an expert in Morgan silver dollars. A coin dealer in your area might help you, but it may not be the person that you really want to sell those coins to when they come back, if that's really your goal when you go to sell them. Also I have here auctions. A lot of the auction houses will also fulfill a lot of these trusted dealer duties that I mentioned. I know almost every major auction house. I mean, I think one of the major companies for the A&A auction coming up did an ad, and they were saying they would pay the grading fees for you if you would consign the coins for auction. So they were very eager to get the coins for auction, and they also knew that that was one of the pieces of the puzzle that might entice those people to give them the consignment that they may not otherwise do that. Sometimes, if you're just wanting to have your coins appraised, and we see this quite often where people will inherit coins. Actually, I was working on a collection recently that 3 heirs inherited a collection from their father who had passed away, and one of the heirs wants to sell some of the coins and one wants to keep them, but without the proper, the appraisal process of having the very valuable coins authenticated, it's hard to do that appraisal properly and come up with the values. So that is, if you have a good appraiser, you need to ask them that can they help you have coins be certified. So because if they can't do that, then they're probably going to be guessing on the expensive coins and not be able to do that whole service for you. Also, the other dealer things that can help you, I mentioned down here, is on the registry set process. These things here had come from one of the websites, but the reason that going back a little bit to that Franklin half dollar, though, one of the reasons that coin brought so much money is there is a huge competition among collectors that are trying to do what set registry building, and what they do is they want to have the very finest. In this case, might have been the very finest collection of Franklin half dollars, and the competition to do those is heated. These people will pay, like in this case, $129,000 for a coin that, if you'd have asked me before the auction, if you told me it was $20,000, I would have been shocked. So those are, they bring huge numbers, but it is such a, to actually make a coin that is the very finest known is very, very, very difficult. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, because a lot of people, it creates a lot of interest about, getting coins graded to try to get that, but we'll talk about why that's so difficult to do. This is an example which I mentioned to you about counterfeits. So I've had my coin operation here in Kentucky for over 30 years, and this is one of about 5 trays that I have of coins that either I made a mistake on, or I bought collections over the years, and the coins end up not being genuine. You can see over here, this little mouse works here, but this is more of a modern Chinese counterfeit of a 1795 half dollar. Some of these coins have added mint marks. There's a lot of coins that some of the pieces that I can tell they're counterfeit for sure. Sometimes though, when I buy coins across the counter from people, I tell them, one of the submission processes I do with people, if someone comes into my coin shop with a set of Lincoln pennies and it's a complete set in circulated condition, I will tell them that I cannot make you an offer for your Lincoln penny collection until I send in probably the 09S and most particularly the 09S VDB, because that coin has been counterfeited for decades, and the counterfeits are so sophisticated and so good that there's no way I can really tell. Even with a good microscope, it's very, very difficult to tell. And I know that if I buy that coin from a person across the counter, and the coin comes back counterfeit, 3 weeks later, I have no recourse, so I can't get my money back. So I tell people that this is what I would pay for the collection if it's genuine, and we'll send the coin in, give a receipt. We send the coin in, and as you can see here, there's a couple little NGC tags that I thought a coin might be real, but I sent it in and the coin ended up not being genuine. And then goes in I call it my little mini museum collection. So I use them for reference when people are sending coins in, or if they want to see what one looks like. I give also talks to coin clubs and different ways for educating people to see what some of these because some of these can be very deceptive. A couple of them are actually counterfeits, what we call contemporary counterfeits. They're coins that were made back in the 1800s to be counterfeited, not for collectors, but actually to try to be spent as circulation. So they're actually kind of a collectible field in their own. But the ANA has a large collection of counterfeits they use for the ANA, their counterfeit classes. And if you ever take one of those classes, you'll get the enjoyment of seeing and also the education of seeing what these things can, the different values and these coins that looks like it, how can that be counterfeit? But you get to see them in person. So this is going to, the next section we're going to talk about, basically the cost of certification and value. And value is really one of the biggest things that you'll have to try to figure out when you're submitting coins. That goes everything from modern coins to vintage coins to I guess it's I put here this is the grading fees basically start at modern coins for $17 and work their way up to $20 for vintage coins. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes grading fees can be hundreds of dollars per coin, and actually in rare cases the grading fees can be thousands of dollars, because several years ago the grading services on expensive coins they started they imposed a fee of 1% on ultra rarities. So if you submit a coin that's $1 million, they charge you 1% of that fee for the coins to authenticate it. I guess they want to have some sort of they hate to. I guess they didn't see the sense of guaranteeing the grade of a coin that's worth $1 million for $100. So they kind of worked on that. Now that can be confusing for people, because I've actually had this happen to me before, where a person has a coin they think is extremely valuable, and that 1% thing comes into play. So they will, well, that's, what do I do about that? And a classic case of that can be 1943 Lincoln pennies in copper. And I get that call all the time. I mean, at least once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes, someone thinks they have a 1943 copper penny. And for you guys that are listening, that's a nice condition 1943 copper penny is worth about $250,000. Well, 1% of that would be $2,500. So the problem with that is I've never, I've had probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls, and I've never encountered a genuine coin from anybody who had one that they thought might be real. They're almost always there always are counterfeit, and most of the ones that are known that trade for the hundreds of thousands of dollars have been in collectors' hands for for decades, of not generations. So when someone gets that, like if you didn't know how to how that works, you might look at the grading fee and you'll see that, well, the coin is worth $250,000 if it's real. So does that mean I got to send in $2,500 in addition to the regular grading fees? So that's something you have to take that into consideration, and that's where it's very important to have a trusted dealer to be able to look at your material and say, well, hey, first of all, let's look at there's an attracted by magnet. You can rule out about 99% of them with a few pretty easy tests. Unfortunately, on that coin and also some other ones that I've encountered in recent years, I don't know. I hate to maybe say it's just the Chinese, but it's probably other places. Some of the counterfeits now are really sophisticated. I've seen some 1943 copper pennies that I've actually had to send them in for people because I wasn't totally sure. I mean, they were so good that they need to be actually looked at. So in that case, what I do for the people is we do the regular grading fee, and then I tell the grading company that bill me if the coin for somehow is genuine, then you can send me send me a bill for it later for the extra fee. We'd be happy to pay. We'd love to pay that fee because that means the coin's worth $250,000. So, but that can be, if you're going to do it by yourself. That's why we'll circle back again to tell you that how important that is to be able to have someone to help you. So we talked about cost of submission, certification. We kind of work into it. So I talked about, unless you have the basic grading skills, it's hard to figure out where to start on this, because this would be a good example here. This is a collection of coins that I bought just about 2 weeks ago. And that's just a portion of it. It was a large group of Franklin half dollars. And there was actually some of the same dates in there are the ones that brought $100-something thousand. And going through there. So obviously, if I sent all of those coins in, that would be thousands of dollars in grading fees if I sent all of those coins in to be graded and grade each individual coin, and that would not be worthwhile for doing. Let me think of another picture. I'll go back to that. A little bit later, I've got a picture of a 1963 Lincoln penny that we'll talk about how one has an auction record of $1,000, but the coin's virtually worthless unless it happens to be an MS66 plus or one of those grades. So when I typically get a group like this, I look at the coins and to see how pristine they are, how nice they are, and I'll do the mathematical equation. These coins would probably qualify for what we would call bulk grading. And I can show you, we'll talk about that a little bit later about how the charts are, but it still comes up to the, the basic mathematics of like, if I send those coins in, how many coins have to grade a certain grade for me to be able to recruit my fees. And that is not easy to do if you're a beginner. So you almost need to have someone to actually try to help you with that process to figure that out. The hat also I wanted to mention too, so there's a little bit of misconceptions about from general public sometimes, or collectors that have been around for a while. Most dealers would know this, but some of the most fabulous grade coins that from the let's say the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, they don't really come out of rolls or bags of coins. They are generally cherry picked out of mint sets from the U.S. government. So those they came in little envelopes, and those coins also have beautiful toning in a lot of cases. That half dollar, about $100,000 over that 1958 half dollar, had just unbelievably beautiful rainbow toning. As you can see from these coins don't have that kind of color or that kind of toning. So these coins would have to stand on their own as far as how many bag marks they have, and also how the strikes on the coins are. So this collection here of coins is something that I'm actually going through in process. They're in my office right now, and I'll be going through the process of trying to go through the coins and determine if they would be worthy of the bulk grading fees. I'll have to go through them, and you'll see some of the dates like 1963s. This would be a good example where you can do some of you'd have to do some of your homework. It's like a 1963 half dollar or a 1963D half dollar. In MS66 with a full bell line, one coin may be worth $100, but the other data 63Ds don't come in with 66 full bell lines, and that coin could be worth $5,000. So there are literally you have to do your homework as far as like getting the price guides, looking through the coins, and assessing almost every coin. Because if you just sent this group in if I just sent this group in as a bulk submission, it would probably be a loser. So I need to go through and probably pick out the coins, to make sure that their coins are, not put together rolls, make sure they're pristine and, nice and fresh. And then also that some of the dates have the coins in it that may be worth those higher values to justify the grading fees. Let me pull this up here. So this is an example of the bulk submissions I pulled out from one of the companies. And this can kind of give you, so what we can do is we can go over to the Franklin half dollars. So for 64 full bell line half dollars, you can see over here, they charge for 64 and below. So if I sent all of these rolls in, all the 64 and below coins, they would charge me $9. They would charge, well, actually same fee for 65s. 65 full bell lines, it would charge you $12 a coin, and then 66 is $12 a coin. I'm not sure what they charge for the higher grade. I guess they don't count on that often. So that's quite a bit of money. That's over on the 65 and 66 coins. That's $240 a roll. That's about what I pay for the rolls. So the grading fee for the rolls would cost as much as the coins. So I would need and then also these bulk submissions there's minimum quantities involved to be able to get those rates, and you just can't send in one roll of coins and do a bulk submission. They think it's you can see also down here they have a reject fee. So the coins that don't meet those minimum grades, they charge you $2 for a fee on that. And then it also applied if less than 60 coins grade, so they do the fee. I have done, quite famously, I had about a year or two ago, I had a group of silver dollars that someone had inherited. They had 13,000 Morgan silver dollars. It was called the New York Bank Hoard, and these coins had been in a bank vault since the 1960s when they came from the U.S. Treasuries. It was like a numismatic time capsule, and it was very, very, very exciting, and got to be involved in that. Well, on a deal that size, you can negotiate with the grading companies, and for instance, you could probably with 13,000 silver dollars, I didn't have to pay a reject fee. I was able to only have coins that graded 63 or better, and then we negotiated a fee that was made the 63 coins be worth having. The grading fee is probably about a break even. Then the 64s, the 65s, and the 66s, and in this case there were 67 coins. They charged as you can see, the reason they got this set up is like a ladder fee, so that you pay based on how the coin grades. So it's kind of a win-win for you. It lowers your overall grading fee, but it gives the grade chance to recoup part of those fees for the higher the coins that they grade. So when I did the silver dollars for the 13,000 coins, I think over 6,000 or 7,000 of the coins met the minimum grade, and then they were able to grade over 6,000 or 7,000 coins, and then with the coins that graded 67, they were able to get I think it was like probably $40 or $50 for the grading fees for those. It was much higher, but it's worth it for me mathematically because those coins are worth $500 to $1,000 a piece. So you can see how the mathematics come into play. And also, it's the larger quantity of coins you have, the better you can have to negotiate. And both companies, NGC and PCGS, have bulk grading systems, and so you can, NGC is the official grading company of the ANA. But I put information out, and I mentioned both of them because everyone, a lot of people use both services. But you can, when you have large groups, you can negotiate fees, and like everything, when there's more than one choice, you have a little bit of negotiating power. Going back to also, I was going to mention, it's astounding. Oh, look over here, Franklin, at these Mercury dimes. As astounding as that was with the set registry collecting. I thought when that 1958 half dollar sold several years ago, that that was like, wow, off the charts, $100,000 for a Franklin half. I would have never dreamed that was ever possible. Well, ended up that coin looked like a bargain compared to later. I think it was a year or so ago, a Mercury dime in the 1930s sold for over $300,000, and the coin was a gorgeous coin, beautiful, but it was being bought for a set registry program. And I'm sure that coin was not part of a bulk submission. It was probably a coin that had been cherry picked out of a collection. I doubt it was, the coin had beautiful toning, so it probably most assuredly was not part of a like a roll situation. So the coin was probably been in a collection for a long time, probably in a manila envelope, and it was and it might have been in. And also another thing about submitting coins, and we'll be talking about this later, but the coin, my guess is the coin had been sent in more than once to get that 67 plus or whatever. Well, I forget what grade it was. It might have been 68 or maybe a 68 plus on a case of a Mercury dime, because they grade a lot higher than Franklin half dollars do because they're smaller coins. Now this is a kind of an illustration. We're talking about. Let me check my time. How we were doing? Yeah, it's 5:09. This is kind of a illustration to talk about this thing with these top coins. So on a lot of silver dollars, or you can see that some of the grading companies may have graded as many as 100,000 of a date of a coin, like an 80S dollar or 81S dollar, and then in one or two cases they'll have graded one a 68 plus or a 69. On this case of this coin, MS66 is the highest graded of the coin, and that coin is you can see the coin's almost flawless, and it's being the finest graded of the coin. It'll bring a really, really big premium. And what has changed probably more in my career of coin collecting than if I had to go back in a time, if I could go back in a time machine in the start of my career, I would have bought every, unbelievably amazing coin that was made after, 1935 or whatever, 1930s, whatever it is. And because you could have bought those coins, back 30, 40 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, you could have bought them for, that Mercury dime that sold for $300,000 in 1930s, probably 30 years ago, you'd have been lucky to have brought a few $100s. So it's the price pressure of these finest known coins in the set registry collecting is just unbelievable. And as would be expected, there's a lot of people making every effort to try to get coins, to going to grade to be in those top pops. A lot of people, I know people actually do it for, as a career choice. They go through, they'll go to a coin show and they go through people's boxes of Jefferson nickels that have maybe not been gone through, and they're looking for, coins with full bell lines. They're looking coins that are going to grade, in either top pop or maybe, one grade less than that will still bring a lot of money for, when they're either put up for auction or they, most cases auction, because that's where these people, I don't think people could use their imagination to price a coin as high as some of these coins bring when these people are in a big competition. So you'll see that, and that's why when I started the class up, when I started mentioning it's very important to have some sort of everything from basic skills to being an expert, because you have to be really, really, really sharp to be able to go through a box of Jefferson nickels and be able to pick out, if a guy's, or like a set of Jefferson nickels, and pick out that one coin that might be worth paying the grading fee and also being worth as a chance of being a really top pop coin. Because, I look at some of these coins and I have a hard time, I've been doing it for 45 years and it's very, very difficult for me. Maybe it's because my eyes are getting a little older, but and maybe it's a younger person's game, but it is difficult. But I think when I still see a coin that I think is amazing, I would not want to leave the money on the table, so I probably try to send it in myself to see what happens. One thing we tended to do is also talk about how some people do. I mentioned a second ago about a lot of people do multiple submissions. So I've seen cases where people who will like a coin say, okay, this coin I think someday is going to grade 67 plus. It's in a 67 holder, and I'm going to keep trying it until I get it in a 67 plus holder. And I've seen people do coins over a dozen times. Maybe heard crazy stories about even more than that, but I know for sure people that'll submit a coin, 10 or 15, 20 times. And, what happens is, on the coin grading, the way it works, coin grading is not an exact science. It is an art. And if you send a coin in, I see a lot of people waste money by doing that. So I can't say that I recommend that as a strategy, because I probably send a coin in 2 or 3 times and I give up on a coin. I think that they're seeing something I'm not seeing. But some people, have the success with that. I can't say that it doesn't happen. And they will try a coin, and they hope that maybe the day that they've submitted it, and maybe they've seen some other coins that depending how they do, then they'll finally get that extra plus, and that could be the difference between coin being worth $1,000 and $10,000. So it's that's also, I hadn't really had that in my notes, and it's funny to talk about that now, but that's something that started, I guess it was maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, is plus grading. And people now, you send in coins, used to be you send a coin in hoping for a 64 or 65. Now, then they've expanded it now that all these coins have the possibility of having a plus. This 1879 CC dollar would be a good example. So that coin's an MS66. The coin's beautiful. It's, fully frosted. It's gorgeous. Well, it's, a super highly skilled Morgan silver dollar collector could look at that coin and say, well, if I could get that coin and submit it 5 times, I might get a 66 plus, and that coin would be worth, instead of worth $50,000, might be worth $100,000. So again, it goes back to the mathematics. How many times you want to send it in, and how much confidence do you have in that, in that being the case. One thing, an urge of caution, always to remember. So you take that MS66 silver dollar out, and you crack it out to resubmit it. you've voided any guarantee that that MS66 sticker or label has. And if you take the coin out and you put it in an envelope, and or if your little thing, and you get all of a sudden it gets a little scratch on the cheek, or someone I don't even anything, the coins are rare. Coins are basically fragile, so anything can happen to the coins, and that takes a certain amount of I can tell you for sure that there's a lot of coin dealers in the business that have more courage than I do when it comes to that kind of stuff. I've seen, guys crack out $100,000 coins and, stick them in a flip and, go send them and do the resubmission, and, more power to them. I wish them a lot of luck on it, but there's also that with the amount of luck that comes a certain amount of risk. So it's not all, not all just upside. So it does happen in a lot of cases where, they sometimes they get lucky and it happens, but sometimes train wrecks can also happen. So I've seen that do. So you got to be careful about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later, how you can get around that. But a lot of people don't think that it's the cracking the coin house when you have the best luck. Also in the mass submissions, when you're sending in a lot of coins, I think that you're still better off to go through send in the best to have the most success. Because I think if you send in just large groups of coins, they just don't have quite the excitement of people, looking at really, really nice coins. This picture, it's kind of like from the illustrate. So if you're, just a beginner collector, and or if you just, happen to run across this, there's a roll of 1963 pennies. This is a 1963 D in the illustration, but that coin brought around $1,500. And that roll is probably worth about $1. So again, unless you're really highly skilled and what an MS66 plus red Lincoln penny looks like, you can waste an awful lot of grading fees. So don't send in a whole roll. Don't try. If you think that I really have like the cherry coin, at least definitely start with one coin, because you wouldn't want to you don't want to have a bad outcome as far as sending in a whole roll and have a big grading bill and find out that you weren't even close on that. We we get like I say, a lot of times we get a lot of people that say they found something on Google with values, and when I think that people see these really high things, it does get confusing. But also, the collectors, there really is a demand for the coins that are in choice condition. And I think that if you're interested in that, that's trying to make coins like that, or begin, even collecting coins like that, it kind of goes in. When you have a chance, try to take the beginning coin classes, the intermediate coin classes, and then the advanced coin classes, because you really, even if you're just a collector, you need to understand the difference between what makes that coin so special to be worth that kind of money. Because a lot of old school coin collectors and been around for a long time, they kind of scoff at these prices. But and I got to say that I probably was I don't know if skeptical is the right word for it, but when I saw that, I thought set registered collecting was like almost silly at some points, the prices paid. But as I've gotten to know more set collectors who are participating in these programs, I appreciate their desire, wanting to have the finest known, be recognized for that, and to the attraction of that as being. I've heard people talk about to buy why would you collect coins, and they say, well, one of the reasons I like collecting coins is I could put together an important collection of coins, for the money that I could be able to spend. I could not do that with art or maybe some other collectible things that are in like a great painting would be $10 million, where you can buy a great coin for $10,000. So you can see why people get attracted to that. It's also interesting. I saw this firsthand I spent quite a bit of time with Deloitte Hansen. I've sold him a lot of really fantastic coins over the last few years. But if you don't know that name, Deloitte Hansen is a really wealthy collector from, I don't mind telling you this, he's been pretty public about his pursuits. But he's a wealthy collector from Salt Lake City area, and his goal is to put together the finest collections of United States coins ever assembled, therefore beating Louis Eliasberg collection that was it is currently listed as the most complete and the finest collection of coins of U.S. coins ever assembled. So I can tell you, I've met with him many times. We've talked about what he does. If it had not been for set registry collecting, this person would probably not have spent the $200 to $300 million that he spent on his coin collection in the last 5 or 6 years. So that the person that came up with that system was brilliant, and it's been the basis of a lot of the coin business for the last several years, and even to the high level of a guy trying to put together the finest collections of U.S. coins, and he's even I think he was actually the buyer of those coins that I mentioned to you earlier, the $300,000 Mercury dime and the $100,000 Franklin half dollar. I'm pretty sure, but not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. So you can see the astounding thing was that he had underbidders that were trying to bid with him against those coins. So set registry collection is a big part of the business, and it's also a big part of the submission process of which people are trying to achieve. Another thing that we get a lot of is, and this happens, almost at least on a weekly basis, I get people call me up about mint errors. And the biggest thing about mint errors is that the first of all is that mint errors are just not nearly as rare as you think they are. In most cases, mint errors, like you see this coin here, that's like a dramatic mint error with a curved flip to it. Well, that coin probably is only worth $1 or $2. It's certainly not worth being certified. A lot of times you see I think in mint errors, there are some very dramatic mint errors. It can be very, very valuable. If you're interested in that, a couple of books I'd recommend is the Cherry Picker Guide by Bill Fevez and J.T. Stanton. That's a really, really good book. And that book that you can, it has not just mint errors, but also varieties, there's a difference between varieties and also a mint error, but like a 37D three-legged nickel, that's certainly worth having graded, but it'll tell you that it'll give you a list of the ones that are worth, sending in to have them graded and have the value. Also, there's a great book that Whitman Publishing did called The 100 Greatest Mint Errors. And that's David Kammeyer was a writer for that, and also Nick Brown, a great late friend of mine, and that's a really good one to see how dramatic does a coin need to be be a mint error that has a value to collectors. That's another one that the whole Google path of trying to figure out value is another amazingly confusing. You try to look up mint errors on Google and it'll drive you out of your mind. So and then also it kind of circles back, which I mentioned several times, is if you think you have a mint error that's worth something, check with an expert or check with a rare coin dealer. And in most cases, they'll be able to tell you pretty quickly whether or not your coin should be submitted to find out if it's genuine. Another issue that I should mention is that the counterfeiters have also figured out that people get enthralled by mint errors. And I see a lot of really sophisticated mint errors now that are being made, that are showing up on online. I've seen some. I've actually got a couple of them in my store right now. Someone wanted to send in that I told them it's not worth sending in. It'd be like a Franklin half dollar with a overstruck with a Walking Liberty half dollar, something that's like nonsensical that can happen. But some of these are very dramatic, and they look really, really high production of quality of being made. So you have to take that all with a grain of salt as far as these things being have a chance of being real. Also would value. Let me see where I'm on next. We go to so modern coins. If anybody here collects modern coins or through your dealers in the group, or you people who are wanting to make different coins, as you know, there's a big market for either MS or proof 69 versus an MS versus in proof 70s, 69 versus 70s. The modern coin business is it's really, really big. It's actually for both NGC and PCGS, it's probably the biggest part of their business. They grade more modern coins for people looking for these MS69s and MS70s, improved 69s, improved 70s, than they do what I call vintage coins, maybe pre like 1965 coinage. There is, you'll see a lot of these coins advertised on TV at night. Silver Eagles, pre 70. A lot of people. My son deals almost exclusively in Silver Eagles. He got in. My son, Benjamin Garrett, started when he got out of college. He was looking for trying to learn things, and I helped him get a job at NGC, and he graded coins for quite a while, and he specialized in Silver Eagles there, and now that's what he deals in. And that can tell you with a fact that a lot of collectors collect Silver Eagles, and probably more people collect Silver Eagles now than do Morgan silver dollars. And there's a big market for MS69 and MS70 Silver Eagles. Some of the Silver Eagles in MS69 will be worth, let's say, $50 or $60 for, let's say, one in the 1990s, and the coin can be worth up to several $1,000s in MS70. Now this is one that you'll see when talking about modern coins that I actually encounter quite often. We recently, someone had offered us an original box of 500 rolls of 1993 Silver Eagles. So there's 500 coins, and the basic math on those is they're worth around $50.69, and they're worth probably $500 to $1,000. I'm not sure exactly in MS70, but that year is notorious for spotting on Silver Eagles. So the box is sealed, so it was almost like buying a lottery ticket. And I think my son actually bought that box and went through it, and most of the coins were not worthy of submission. I think he ended up sending in probably 20 or 30 coins out of 500. So it's if you'd have bought that box and sent it in to the grading services, that would have been, as an original box, that would have been, you would have lost money on it, most for sure, because a lot of the coins wouldn't have even graded 69, and because of the spotting, and it would have been a bad deal. But a lot of people do that because they want to take the chance on, if they got 100 MS70s, they can make $10,000 or $20,000. So on modern coins, like I say, it comes back again to the mathematics. If you don't know if you're not an expert in the field, you either have to get some expertise, or maybe send in a smaller sampling group so you can get a feel for what your end results might be. So we're talking about the grading tiers. We'll go back to this a little bit, talk a little bit more about the 70s and things. On now, what you'll see, very, very popular, and still probably, like I say, more of the grading services get more of this business than anything else, is when modern coins have a release. Probably a good example was, I think it was 2019, there was a Silver Eagle that the U.S. Mint made that was at they released them into Baltimore, and people were standing in line to get these coins. The coins, they was a special reverse proof coin that sold at the coin show for, I think, around $50, and not too after that, the coins were selling for between $500 and $1,000, and the difference between the 69 and 70 was 2 to 3 times the value of the coin. So you do see that a lot. A lot of times Silver Eagles on the modern issues really are not worth sending in, because the 70s really aren't. There's not a big enough resale value. The ones that really do the MS70s on the current issues are more the really large marketing companies that have a market that they can sell those MS70s, have someone that collects them. But if you were just like buying them, you pretty much cannot just buy them and have them graded and just put them on eBay for the common issues. So you can do your homework again on these modern issues. Go in and look on eBay and see what MS70s are selling for we call them like on the resale market, and that'll give you an idea whether or not it's worth you sending those coins in to do. So that the modern coins that can be, it's the biggest part of the grading company's business. So therefore, it's probably something a lot of you might be interested in knowing more about. And we'll also talk on that a little bit further into the presentation here. So we have the grading tiers. We actually have already touched on this, I think, pretty well. Each company has 10 or 20 different grading tiers, and we'll have an invoice here that I'll go over. We can talk about that a little bit, see the different ways. But as you can see, the fees actually probably should be, I had that probably, that's for individual coins, it's for $17 to $300 plus 1% of the value. But as mentioned earlier, bulk grading, you can have a much lower fee. So that can also vary depending on what if you have hundreds or thousands of coin, it'll basically be cheaper. This is you can see where you start getting complicated when you start looking at these tiers of the grading. So as I mentioned earlier, you start at the top, you see the unlimited walkthroughs, and they call these walkthroughs, even though you're not at a coin show, they're walkthroughs. It's kind of like you're going to get the coin back, you see, within 24 hours. That's why they call it a walkthrough. And they obviously charge a lot higher rate for that. And NGC is on the same on US coins as world coins. Sometimes if a coin's complicated, these turnaround times are estimated. If they have a coin that they need to bring in outside experts, I've seen coins take as long as a month to get graded. If you send in a esoteric pioneer gold coin, for instance, that there's known counterfeits of, they may want to bring in an expert or have the coin sent off to somebody to also actually to look at that to make sure that the coin's A, genuine. Because just remember, when they take your grading fee, they're basically issuing a warranty on that coin for the grade and authenticity. So they want to be very, very, very sure that that coin is exactly what it is when they send that coin back to you. You see the express rates. So as you'll see here on these grading tiers, a lot of times these tiers really are not your choice. So, and when I say that, it's based on the value of the coin. So they've kind of, there's some points where you can make some choices and you can, decide on the, one thing or another, but they've got it set up on mostly so that if you see if a coin is over $100,000, you pretty much, well, actually from 10,000 to $100,000, you have to do the walkthrough fee for $150. And if a coin's $3,000 to $10,000, you have to do the express fee, which is $60, and then so forth and so on. Where there's some variations where, I make this decision myself sometimes. Let's say I have 5 $20 gold pieces. So I may have some down here under the gold service, you can see it's up to, the value of the coin can be up to $3,000, and they increase these values occasionally. But I think it used to be $2,000. They increase those values as the gold prices go up. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually increase these ceilings on these in the near future because of the price of gold's gone up so much. But if I had some nice, group of nice $10 Indians or some $20 gold pieces, I might want to, send them in under the gold service, which you can see is quite a bit cheaper, only $25. And these are the retail rates because it's cheaper even for dealers. But I might decide I might want to put the coins in with some other expensive coins, and I might want to, put them in an express package. Now, this might be a good time to talk about this whole process about putting in coins in for submissions, because when I say the art of rare coin submission, there is a little bit of an art to it. I will also call it either art. It's probably a combination of art, science, and superstition. So I'll have to explain that a little bit, because you wouldn't think how could that possibly be part of it. So as we talked about these walkthroughs, there's also there's a lot of things called show grading, where the companies will be set up at a coin show like an ANA convention or a Baltimore convention or maybe an ANA convention, where the companies actually take their staff. They've got they got all the equipment there, and they're grading the coins at the convention. Now those to get coins graded at the convention probably cost I'm sure it's 20 to 50%, or maybe even it may be more than that. So it is quite a bit more expensive to have your coin graded at a convention. So you would ask, why would people do that? So there's why would you want to pay more to have your coin graded? And like let's say these gold coins, for instance, they charge $25. Well, at a coin show, they charge $60 or so to grade those coins. So I'll go back to the reason. So the reason is quite a few dealers, maybe some collectors, but certainly a lot of coin dealers think that they get better results at a coin show. And and I think I've actually saw some of the literature, from the grading companies that, I just got some just a week or so ago. I was looking at it, and the thought process on that, they kind of like duplicate it, to have, the whole grading process is basically the same. But for the grading, if they go to a coin show and they're grading them on site and they're doing them there, under, I wouldn't say under pressure, but they're doing them under a time frame because they want to put the coins back at the show. They actually bring in their best graders to do that. They have they call their walkthrough graders, or their tier graders are the highest level of their graders. So it is logical when you think about it. If you go to a coin show, who do you want looking at your coins? Do you want somebody who has maybe only been at one of the grading companies for a few years, and he's one of the economy graders, and he's maybe one of the gold graders for bulk coins out of Europe? Or do you want to have the guy who is, or the gal in some cases, grading your coins, who are considered the best of the best at those grading companies, and they pay them the highest salaries, who understands those coins, may understand the subtleties of the coins, because every coin's different. You got coins that are, you got a lot of coins that are, each 1 year is different than another year. Like a mint mark is different. So there's a lot of variables to go into coin grading, and that's why I say there's the art of it. There's also the science. But then some of the coin dealers, I know some coin dealers who only submit at coin shows, that walk through at events. That's all they do, and they pay a lot of money in grading fees. And some of these dealers spend six figures, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's one or two around the country that spend seven figures a year in grading fees, and they think that that's how they get the best results. I tend to use a combination of them. If I have a nice group of gold coins that nice fresh U.S. gold coins, I'll submit them under the gold service. And but if there are some better dates that I think need to be looked at, then I also will consider using them for the walkthrough at the conventions. So you will see quite a few people that you'll hear different parts of it. That's why part of this class was called the art of the coin grading. The economy is for lower value coins. You can see is up to $300 value of coins. So when you look at that, this actually, you start really bumping into pretty much getting close to 10% of the value of the coin. So you need to be careful about that, and understand the coins, and check on that. Checking my time here. Then under modern coins, that's modern coins, a lot of times that is more done in bulk, and is done more. You'll see that in cases where bulk is the last one there, and you can see their call for rates. So that's I guess if you had like some modern issues that like a set of Jefferson nickels, for instance, you thought were really nice, you could send them into the modern and pay the $17 fee. So it does get a bit less. But when you look at the chart, I think it's kind of self-explanatory, and you can see how these fees are substantial. I know my company spends, I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on grading fees, and I'm very, very careful about what tier I send them in on. Also, I concerned about turnaround time, how long it'll take me to get the coin back, and those things. Luckily now the companies do publish their turnaround times, and they're pretty good about that. In boom times, some of the grading companies, they would take a couple months to get coins graded, even at the higher levels. So it can, it's a supply and demand thing. For instance, if you send in coins at one of the grading companies when Silver Eagles just came out, that may slow down the whole process because they may be getting 100,000 silver eagles to be graded, and they got a lot of other people that are working on that. So you can, it's almost like a seasonal type situation. This is the PCGS's submission thing, so you can pretty much see it's similar. They're a little bit more maybe broken down on a few things. Then they've got the different service levels, that you can see that, and then down here at the bottom, they've got the whole section on the show thing. So you can see they've got, some of these coins, PCGS does it at the coin show. They will actually do a coin in 4 hours, but they charge I think it's $300 plus 1% of the value. So if you really want to get the coin back quick, that can be the service you want to use. Now, I've actually used that service for a couple of clients where they didn't want to have the coin out of their hands overnight. So they have a coin that's worth $100,000 or more, something really valuable coin. They want to go to the coin show, hand it to them, and get it back in a few hours. They want to, they want to take the chance on it getting lost or something happening to it or something like that. So there's a reason for that. Some people may want to choose that service. Then also you can see the whole reholder thing, and so there's a lot of variables there on these grading forms, and then you can see that how there's different options. Now another reason that I wanted to give this class is some of the pitfalls that people run across in coin grading. So I'd say one of the, and I polled both of the grading companies at different times to ask them, like, what are some of the customer service issues you have? So I understand, when I'm teaching this class, what can I cover that could be helpful for you, people who maybe want to consider submitting coins. So one of the biggest problems that people have, by far, in my opinion, is the no grades. And you would not think, that would be, it's probably surprising for a lot of people that becomes an issue. But when you submit coins, it's really easy to miss flaws on a coin that can cause a coin not to be fully graded. Now, this is, both companies have greatly improved this aspect of coin of submissions. I'm not sure when it started. I'd have to guess it was 10 years ago. Time flies. It might have been 7 or 8 years ago, or it could have been 10 or 12 years ago. I'm not sure. But previous to that, if you sent a coin in, and the grading companies would not call it, we call it a full grade or a numerical grade. They wouldn't grade it like an MS63 or an MS70 or a AU50 or whatever number, a numerical grade. They would no grade the coin, and they would send it back in what they called body bags. And it was like a little, they would put it back in a little plastic container and send it back to you, and then your coin, your grading fee was completely wasted. So you got nothing back for your money, except knowing your coin would not fully grade. So they came up with a system a few years ago where they call it a details grading. So they will, as you can see here is an illustration with an 1861S Pack A20, where it's came back AU details with a scratch on it. So that tells you the coin's got AU, when it says details, that means the amount of wear. It has the amount of wear that an AU coin would have, but somewhere on the coin, it didn't tell you, this doesn't say, sometimes they'll say obverse or reverse, it says it has a scratch on it. And then a lot of times they'll come back with probably the biggest problem that coins come back from that have details cleaning is because of cleaning. And there's a lot of misconception on what cleaning means. So a lot of people think, oh, coins should never be cleaned, or they should, coins are cleaned a lot, and why are they, they call that. So I may come back to this slide here in a minute, but with cleaning, as far as the grading companies, what cleaning means is they're looking for hairlines. And here is an excellent example of what we're talking about. Now, this happens to be an extremely rare coin, and this is very unfortunate that this coin has this, because this coin came back as an 1892 silver dollar, and this could have been same thing could have happened to you with an 1880 silver dollar. But if you look at the photograph of the coin, you look at it, straight on, we'll call it, the coin looks fairly nice. It's got, the coin's mint condition. It's got a little bit of, bag marks, but nothing that would keep it out of, being mint condition. But if you turn the coin in the light just right, and luckily I was able to capture it with the photograph pretty well. I actually did that with my iPhone, and you can see those hairlines in the field right in front of the face. It's like a little white, and that could have been like someone's fingers could have gone across it. It could have been, any number of things that could have caused that. But in this case of this coin, that's a $40,000 coin if that coin graded MS60 or MS61. So, but because of that undetailed cleaning, that coin is probably only worth, $5,000 or $10,000, maybe $12,000, depending on, what collector likes it. But you can see it's not even worth a quarter of what it would be worth if it had that did not have that happen on there. This is another example of a coin I just recently got, and it's a little more subtle, but it says AU details, and then this one it says reverse cleaned, and then you can see I kind of detailed it right there above the 320 in the back. You see those lines that are kind of going across it. Those lines, you see it with at that angle, but if you turn it in different angles, you can actually see it on different parts of the back of the coin. So it does have quite a bit of cleaning, and that coin is probably worth it's probably a $5,000 or $6,000 coin without the cleaning, and with the cleaning, I'd say it's probably worth $2,000 or $3,000. This is another coin as an example of details grading where it has the obverse. It's got a square. And if you look at it just straight on, it's pretty respectable. The coin looks nice, but if you turn it just so you'll see there's some scratches across the face there. There's also a line of some problems right out in the field above the 1909, and that makes that coin probably worth about half of what it would be without those problems. Here's another really good one. Now this is a coin that I submitted, and I actually made the mistake on it. I didn't see that this problem. They said it came back. They said it had graffiti. So if you look at the coin straight on, you don't really see that very well. But when they sent the coin back to me, it said reverse graffiti on it. I actually had to turn it in the light a little bit, and I saw what they're talking about underneath the eagle's wing there. There's a patch of graffiti on the coin that caused them not to hold the coin, and it's got that makes that coin worth not even probably half about what it would be worth without that. It would be a really nice, pleasing circulated example of a $17.95 half dollar, but it's got that graffiti there. We'll go back a little bit and we'll talk, going back to this again about no grades. So other things that can cause no grade and this is unfortunately that if a coin has PVC on it, or basically if a coin has any kind of contaminants on a coin, then they will not even put it in the details graded holders. They'll send it back to you will send it back to you in what they call the body bag, where you'll get the coin and it'll just say no, not appropriate for grading, PVC, and that is PVC. If you're not familiar with that, that's very, very, very common. Back in I guess maybe starting in the 60s, 70s, for sure in the 70s a lot, in the 80s, there were thing called these little plastic flipettes that they sent coins out, and you could buy these supplies, and people stored these coins in these for a long period of time, and the chemicals would actually create like an oil or a residue would get onto the coin and adhere to it, and that is a contaminant. So the logic is for the grading companies, they don't want to put a coin in a holder that's got a contaminant on it, because the coin will eventually eat into the coin, will make it look worse, and it'll get worse and worse. So that coin needs to either it needs to have that chemical removed, and that is actually a service that both of the companies do perform. They'll actually tell you that sometimes I'll get just happened with me probably about a week or two ago. I submitted a group of coins, and they sent back NGC sent me back an email that says 1 or 2 coins on this invoice is a candidate for conservation, and because it has coin had PVC on it. generally, unless the coin belonged to, and if it belonged to someone else, I'd have to call them and get permission. But most of the times what I'll do is I'll send them an email back and I'll say, yes, you have the permission to remove that PVC or that environmental problems. It's on that coin. Remove it, and then they'll do that for me, and then they'll send you a bill for that separate fee. And we'll talk about that here in a minute about conservation. Other things that can cause a coin to come back for no grades are scratches, environmental damage. There's environmental damage generally means corrosion. So in case you weren't familiar with that, that means if you got a coin, if you have a large cent that's got happens a lot, it'll have corrosion. Now, on no grades, you need to be particularly careful about no grades on circulated coins, because circulated coins almost by nature, they've been in circulation, they're going to have some sort of problems. And there's a fine line there between, and the grading companies make a judgment call on this. Where is it like, what's the difference between a light line or what they call a scratch or a bag mark, or it becomes, a damage? That's a probably really good analogy. What's the difference between a bag mark and damage? Because they really are both the same, but one can be considered like acceptable damage and the other one is not acceptable damage. So you'll have that issue. So, I'll go back again to this. We'll always keep referring to it. Is if you've got coins that you want to submit, it's really, really, really good to have somebody who's an expert go through your coins and to sort them out, and to help you avoid no grades. So that is something that it's unpleasant because these fees are still going to be charged. If they charge the same for a walkthrough coin that comes back no grade as they do, or details grading as they do for a coin that's fully graded. So you're paying the same price. So you don't want to, a lot of cases you've got to do the math. Occasionally, now I gotta say, I actually send coins that I know have a problem, but the coin's so valuable that it's still worth more to have that coin like this. A good example would have been this Pack 20 there, this photograph. That coin is worth tens of thousands of dollars. So you do want to have that coin graded, even put in a holder, even though it has a detailed grading on it. So when I'll forward it through here again, this is really a great picture. I hope you guys enjoy seeing that, because I think that just really illustrates what, the subtle things that you can get caught on with on the clean coins with grading. Okay, now this is the conservation service I mentioned earlier. Conservation, both services offer it. NGC was kind of the leader in it. They have they're called NCS, Numismatic Conservation Service. They've had it for a long, long, long time. They've got a big staff devoted to it. They've done a lot of conservation. They were kind of leaders in doing the shipwreck conservation. So a lot of coins that had come up from the ocean floor, and they did like the SS Republic. They had thousands and thousands of coins, and they developed a lot of really great techniques to remove contaminants and to get to do that process, because it's complicated and it's all proprietary, and they can they got that down to a science. Some of the most common things that people use conservation services for is I mentioned earlier, the PVC, which is super common. Also spotting and unattractive toning, and also it's probably all the same thing: spotting, unattractive toning, and carbon spots. Carbon spots are very, very common on United States gold coins. Pretty much, I'd say after the 1880s and later. It's kind of the way the gold alloys, the copper would kind of leach to the surface, and gold coins will get these kind of red copper spots, and that can make a coin be worth a lot of difference in value. So these conservation services, it takes a little bit of skill to know how to do it. Goes back again and again. I suggest getting expert advice to help you do that. So you just wouldn't want to just send in a lot of coins for that. This is an example of where, like, I did this myself, just to give you an example of even under subtle cases where conservation can be important. And this is some of the things that you can maybe do yourself or consider, because it does make a difference in value. So this is an 1898 silver dollar. It's probably going to grade MS 64. It's not a super valuable coin, but as you can see, at 9 o'clock, on the picture on the left is a before, picture on the right is an after. That little spot there, if I had sent that coin in to get graded, and they grade it, send it back, they would probably grade it. The spot's not like, it's not too terrible. We'd actually call it more like toning, but it's not attractive and it doesn't help the coin's value. So that coin, I used jewel luster, which is like just a standard a silver cleaner. I dipped it in the coin. You can see now on the right. If a retail customer gets that coin, he'll like it. It's fully frosted like it was before, but it doesn't have that little area of unattractive toning. Probably what caused that area of attractive unatoning, it was in a paper 2x2, 2x2, like they call it, it's a little holder, and the staple was probably close to the coin at that edge there, and a little bit of that rust probably got near the coin and got a little contamination, and that's how that happened. So this is a very subtle. You wouldn't want to use the conservation service for that, because this is not a very valuable coin. It's probably $50, and you wouldn't need it for that service. But I just want to give an illustration of why you wouldn't want to get a coin conserved, even if you did it yourself. NCS, now they charge a fee they charge a 4% of the retail value with a $25 minimum. Also, they have in their now NCS now, when you can also use it when a coin's submitted ungraded, they will say if a coin will grade the coin, but also we can use the NCS services. But also you can send a coin in that you think, let's say picture before you bought that coin and you didn't like that. Let's say it was a $5,000 coin this would be a good example. That was a 93 silver dollar, for instance, and you really like to have that coin for your collection, but you couldn't live with that little spot on there. You might send that coin to NCS or the other grading companies and for the conservation, and say I'd like to have that spot removed, and they would look at the coin, and let's say it was a $5,000 coin, so they might charge you $200 to do that service, and to also a minimum fee. The tricky part is they're going to look at the coin very, very careful to make sure that if they remove some toning, that maybe that toning is covering up a scratch or something like that. So there's a little bit of subtle things there, and also they don't have guarantees on it, but they will they will do an evaluation of the coin to see if there's a benefit of the conservation or what the risk is. So I have many cases I've sent a coin in for conservation because I'll have like a coin that's got dark deep toning that I know, for instance, that if I were to sell, I could sell it, with this frosty white. But when the grading company looked at it, they have a deep concern that if they were to try to conserve it, then the coin would not still grade the same. So they will do an analysis of that, and they will you can negotiate that with them. You can send the coin to them, say can you if you can look at it, and they will, in most cases, if they don't think the coin will be enhanced by this service, they'll send it back to you with no fee. So that's important to remember that, because not every coin is eligible for conservation. It's a very, and it goes back again, you need expertise advice on that. So you can't just send them every unattractively toned coin you've got and hope to get them all back frosty white. Now another service, going back to we'll go back here, checking the time again, we're fine, we got about another half an hour, is variety services. Now, variety services are let me pull my paper here. So variety services are something that I do use quite often, because a lot of coins can be worth more money, and silver dollars are a good example. Silver dollars are worth quite a bit more money if you've got what they call one of the VAM varieties that they do. And there's books. So the variety services are in both companies, NGC and PCGS, are based on reference books that have been written over the years that are considered now the standard reference for a series that people collect, and they collect them by variety. For instance, Morgan dollars are collected by variety, but like Eisenhower dollars, I don't think there's really a book devoted to Eisenhower dollars, for instance. Let me look here. So this is from the NGC's website. So if this is where you can go in and you can hit each one of those, one of those denominations, and you can see the coins that they actually do by variety. Like you could see the the top left-hand corner, if you had large cents or half cents, they would be able to say that they're going to do the half cents by Cohen numbers, they'll do large cents by Sheldon numbers, and the later date large cents, for instance, by Newcomb numbers. So they've got a, and this is very, very, very important, and on large cents particularly, because large cent varieties can be worth, a coin can be a common variety can be worth $100. A rare coin can be a rare variety is worth $10,000. And when you go to sell these coins, it's very, very, very important for resale value that they have the variety information on the coins. So you want to make sure you do that. This is the PCGS's numbers that they've got the variety information there. They've got the Cohen numbers. You can see their half dimes, Logans, and so forth and so on. You can see the different ones that they do. Down at the bottom, this goes back to that book I'd mentioned to you earlier about the Cherry Picker's Guide. So they've got a lot of the a lot of different denominations. Like if you had an Ike dollar, I'm sure Ike dollars, there's some good varieties that would be in that Cherry Picker's Guide. So they use that. So sending coins in for varieties, so most of them what they do is they charge you, it's like an add-on fee. So you will have if you have the grading tier, you pick the tier. So let's say you have a $3,000 large cent, you would pay the tier that coin would accompany, and then on top of that fee, you would pay $15 for them to do it by variety. So it's based on the tier plus an extra fee. It's like an add-on fee. Now you would not want to use that fee for, that's something you need to be specifically wanting to accomplish. You just don't check off that box for every time you submit coins, because otherwise you'd be racking up grading fees that you don't really need. It's only applicable if you've got a coin that you think would really benefit. Again, it kind of starts from the very beginning where we talk about cost, the mathematics of the cost versus the fees. Trying to think about the grading. I think one more about the variety part. Yeah, so the variety part, when you submit those coins, it's usually experts. I mean, people who are maybe specialized in their field, and that's where it would be good to, if you're, let's say you've got a large, you bought a large. I do this myself sometimes. If I bought a large, a group across the counter, a guy has a bag or a box of large cents. I have a gentleman that works in my office. He loves large cents. I'll have him go through and look up the coins by variety. And he says, oh, this coin's a R5 or an R3 or something is a better coin. Then I'll send that coin in and ask for the to have that variety put on that coin. So I've already done a little bit of my own research. So in almost most cases, I would say you want to do some of the research yourself, or have someone do it for you so that you don't waste those fees. Both services also offer what they call a crossover fee, crossover service, so that if you say you only collect PCGS coins, or you only collect NGC coins, and you've been looking for a rare coin like your whole life, and you happen to run across it, but it wasn't in the service that you wanted, then you can send it into those services. And what they basically do is they regrade the coin. They look at the coin and they grade the coin and in the holder. And if the coin they agree with the grade on the holder, then they'll crack the coin out themselves and they'll put it in their holder. Like NGC would crack out a PCGS coin and put it in an NGC holder for you, and then they charge a fee to do that. If they don't agree with the grade on the coin, and they say that, oh, your coin's an MS65, but we only graded 64 or 64 plus, then they'll keep your fee, but they send the coin back to you, not graded. So that's it's important. It comes to the fees. And then some coins in some holders are worth more than other holders. So because more people may collect that series in a holder. So it comes back to the mathematics of it. There is a thing called guaranteed resubmissions. So what you can do is where this is important. This is actually a little bit subtle stuff, and what's good to have a lesson like this. You may not have heard about this. It's when you want to have a coin in to be sent in to be graded. So you can do it. You can have a coin in sent for regrade, where you send it in, they crack it out, and they regrade the coin, but they guarantee the coin will come back at least the grade it's in the holder at. So if you send in an NGC MS64 1895 or Proof 64 1895 Morgan dollar, but you really think in your heart of hearts they should look at it as a 65, they'll crack it out, they'll regrade it, and they'll look at it again, and they'll guarantee they won't downgrade it, but they will at least consider it, can be considered for an upgrade. And I see that happen with success sometimes. The other one that's a little bit more subtle, which you can sometimes use, it's called reconsideration. And the reason you want to do a reconsideration, though this is a good example of it, the marketplace puts a premium on coins that have been with older holders. So if you had this 1860D $5 gold piece, and you really like it, but you think it should grade AU 55, so you can send the coin, or 53 or 55 or maybe even 58. So you can send the coin in for them. They will not crack it out. They will just reconsider it for a higher grade. And then if they upgrade it, they will crack the coin out and they will upgrade it. But if they don't, they will leave the coin in the holder, so that when if you wanted to sell the coin later, the marketplace will probably pay you a premium for that old green label. Or in case of NGC, one of the old earlier labels, like some of the early ones was bring really big premiums. So this is something that a lot of the experts use and some of the dealers use, because they want to try to get the higher grade holder if they can, but then again, they don't want to lose that old green holder or one of the earlier holders, because that is definitely has value to them. They want to maintain that. This is another huge area of the grading services now that they do a lot of, and it's a big part of the business. It's probably the majority part of the business of what they're doing. Obviously, it probably is a majority, because there are these early releases, special releases. They do specialty labels, and what they do is every coins, like you see right now down here below, there's they're doing the basketball coins that just came out. So they got these special labels. They've even got them with the orange cores on them. So you'll see these. If you like to collect these coins, and people like them, they got special signatures. The one on the right here is a Charlie Duke coin that I actually knew through a friend of mine several years ago. I met Charlie Duke as one of the astronauts who walked on the moon in 1972, and I engaged him for a specialty label series where he would sign the labels. And we originally started out with 1972 Ike dollars, and he would sign them because on the back of them have a moon landing. But they're very, very popular, and we sold several thousand of them. So they've been a lot of demand for those, and people like them. So specialty labels are probably more something that large dealerships do a lot of. Some of the big mass market companies, they'll send in thousands and thousands and thousands of coins, because they've got a lot of people who like these modern coins, and they buy these as they come out. There's everything's with first strikes, early release, show release, special signatures. There's a large combinations of a lot of different possibilities. These are some specialty labels that I've actually done myself. In the middle there, you'll see the Charlie Duke label, which I had done when I chose. These were when I had this program done. They gave me these choices. So these are the samples, and the one I chose was the one with the astronaut with the suit on, as you can see there in the middle. But those are some of the other ones that I had a chance to do. I do a lot with ancient Roman coins, Roman and ancient coins, and also medieval coins. And this is a coin I did from Armenia that is a fairly, it's not a really expensive coin. It's probably a $50 or $75 or $100 coin. But I did a coin called Coins of the Crusaders, because this coin was circulated during the time of the Crusaders in the 12th and 13th century. And you can see with the picture of the label on there, that's kind of makes it, adds a little pizzazz to it, and it makes it kind of fun. Over here on the far right, was the samples of the labels that I used for the New York bank hoard, where I had those 13,000 silver dollars. And that was part of the process when I submitted these coins to them. I wanted to have a specialty label so that when these people saw those coins in the marketplace, they knew those coins came actually from the deal that I had, that was from these 13,000 coins, and they were special, and they had their own special label. And you can see there also the other ones, it was a Golden Age hoard, was a deal of Roman coins that I did with some imagery from Roman times. So that, specialty labels is that's a big part of the market. Now this is another subject that I get a lot of people asking me about. I get this all the time. People want to know about crackouts. So it's part of the submission process where people you want to crack coins out. Here's a little stack of labels of coins that I've cracked out a while back. And obviously, why would you crack a coin out? It's because the coins may be worth more money in the next grade up. Fairly simple proposition. But it's also goes back to the math of like, what does it cost to have there's, when you're cracking a coin out, there's the basic math is, what is the coin gonna be worth in the next grade up? What is the chances the coin will grade higher? And generally, that it's you need to be have some sort of certainty, because that needs to be taken into consideration. If it only has a 20% chance of upgrading, the coins only goes up from 10 or 20% value. Like right now, a MS64 St. Gaudens $20 gold piece is a good example. An MS65 St. Gaudens $20 gold piece is only worth a couple $100 higher. So is it really necessarily worth it for you to pay that $50 fee at a coin show to get that coin graded? Maybe, but it'd have to have at least a 4-to-1 chances in your to do that. So it's it basically comes down to the mathematics. Also, there's no assurances of coins when you crack them out of getting them upgraded. And then also you need to also take into account some things that can happen when you crack a coin out. What you basically, so a coin when it's in a holder is basically been issued a warranty, and the coin you've got to take that warranty that is the it's guaranteed for that grade, and they guarantee authenticity. But when you crack the coin out, you have essentially voided the warranty. So all bets are off. And I can tell you from experience, I had a fellow who worked for me probably 10 years ago. He bought a 1907 high relief $20 gold piece and MS65 and paid $40,000, I think, for it. And he thought it was, this coin's absolutely a lock 66. But when he cracked the coin out, the coin had a rim file on the edge that the grading company had missed the first time. And unfortunately, the next 5 times we submitted, they didn't miss it. It never did grade it again. And the coin was sold for probably not much more than half of what we'd paid for it originally. So, I can tell you from personal experience that does happen, and that, it's easy to have, as expert as you think you might be, it's, easy for a coin to downgrade, and it can be quite stressful. You buy a coin that's worth, say it's, $500 coin, you think it's going to upgrade, and you get it back and it downgrades, and then you got to go through the fees again and all that. So it's, it happens all the time. I'm sure almost every day someone's sending coins in for trying to get upgrades. But I would say in general, that's more of a professional. Professional do that more on a regular basis. And of course, now if you've got coins that have been graded, when they first started out, 30 some odd years ago, they definitely graded more conservatively, and a lot of times those coins will grade higher. So there is let's see if I've got an example of it. So yeah, this is the next thing to think about. So is eye appeal. So cracking a coin out to get an upgrade is not always worth it, even if it's successful. And you can actually check with people. So what I've got here is a good illustration for that. So here is a coin that in MS66, you can see how the darker coin sold for $9,000. And then a beautiful example of the same coin sold for $14,000. So if you had this coin, one of these coins, it depends on what condition. So there are times in cases where if I have an attractive coin that let's say it's an MS65 and it's really looks good in the grade, and if it upgraded to MS66, it may not be worth that much more money because it wouldn't look good as an MSC. It might barely make it, but it might be not really worth the math on it to do the upgrade. So you definitely got to you can look at some of the auction records and you can see that and make that apparent. But I can tell you from personal experience, I break out less coins these days than I used to because, first of all, over the years, the value from one grade to the next is not as much as it used to be. And also, a lot of times it can only be 10 or 20%. And a lot of times people will pay that extra fee to have a coin just because it's, they appreciate it being in a really nice holder. So that does make a difference. So you got to take that, that's against more math, and you get one of your people to do. I've only got about 15 more minutes here, so I'll go through some of the information to go a little more quickly. So submitting coins, you have to be a member of these companies to submit. Dealers can help you with it, and also you have the grading forms that can be complicated. You need help with that sometimes, and also I particularly, when I submit coins, I use these hard plastic flips that you can buy from most of the dealer supply places, and then also I put them inside these polyethylene envelopes that we put them in there to protect them, because I can tell you when you submit coins, it only takes one little tiny grain of a contaminant or anything, because coins are, I mentioned it earlier, coins are fragile. So you want to really, really be careful that coins don't get a scratch or something on the coin while they're in transit. So that's really, really important. The submission forms, as I mentioned earlier, can be complicated. There's an example of the NGC submission form. PC submission. So this is the NGC submission form. This is one that I submitted some coins just this last week. So you can see where I list the coins on the list in details. You put the coin date, the mint mark, if it has one, the denomination, mint state or proof. You put in the variety, what the coin might be. Then over here, it's important you put in the value. And then over here, I picked in the type of the submission. It's a U.S. coin. And then most important thing over here in the middle here is I picked out the tier of the service. In this case, it's the gold tier, which is $25 a coin, and I've got 5 coins, so it's $125. Also, the shipping method, you can choose different ways of the coins being shipped back to you, which is important. In my case, I have the coin sent back to me Federal Express. I give them my Federal Express number, and then they have my insurance limit, so I know they know how to ship the coin back to me safely. Also down here at the bottom, they want to have payment information. And in my case, I've established a credit line with the companies, which you can do if you've established that with the companies, and you can have the coin. They will just send you a bill at the end of the month. Then also some of the other services you can see on the things. You can have the coins conservation. They have photography that you can have done. So there's a big, large menu there, but I do recommend having dealers or someone to help you with that, or you can call the companies themselves and they can help you with to navigate those forms. You can both of the companies now have you have to join these companies, and they have you can to submit coins. NGC is an official grading company of the ANA, so you can submit coins without paying some fees if you belong to the ANA to NGC. This is you go to the NGC's website. This is their their membership information. So you can see here free. You can and it tells you what you get to their how you can what their services are. PCGS has similar information, and they have they both would like to have you sign up and then pay a fee. And they both companies are really worth belonging to because of all the other resources they got as far as price guides, information about collecting. There really are. I would say both grading companies now are probably some of the best sources for for getting numismatic information. They're amazing educational places to go. Shipping coins can be also a daunting task for a lot of people. So you've got to, go through that process. One thing I'll tell you that's very, very, very important to do is take a photograph of your coins before you ship them with an iPhone or something, and that'll help you in case there's ever a dispute or an issue. You'll have evidence of that. Also, make sure the coins don't rattle, and include the proper paperwork when you're sending material to the companies. Shipping the coins, never put coin on the outside of the box, because you don't want your coins getting stolen by someone that says, oh, here's coins going to Mid-American Rare Coin Galleries. You just want to put MARCG. So, being, a little bit of common sense on that. This is, I mentioned earlier, here's an example of where I had my coins I was getting ready to submit. I had them on trays. I was kind of looking at them and, getting them organized. And then there's the bottom is kind of like the final product before I get ready to write those coins up on the grading form. You can send them by UPS or Federal Express. It depends on which service you'd like to try to use. Both of those are good. Also, at the end here, I just put a little bit of tips and things. I can just go through it really, really quickly. Then we'll try to get to a couple questions. If we got a little bit of time, maybe they'll let us run over. But take pictures of your coins with your phones. That's really, really good to do. Make sure you always use clean holders to send coins, because it just doesn't take much of a contamination to ruin a coin. I always submit coins in date and denomination order, so it makes it a little bit easier for the graders to go through them if they're looking at them and not moving around. If you could see, I'll make sure coins are solid for the grades, and the dealers can help you with that purpose. To looking for PQ coins. Coin show submissions, we talked about earlier, why people pay the fees. Always return, if you do crack coins out, return the tags, because that helps keep the population reports organized. Also, establish relationships with with the grading companies. If you are a dealer, I'm speaking to you guys primarily. They could, I've got people at both companies that I can call. They'll help me with any issue I have. So it's really good to have a person on the inside. Also, like I just mentioned, explore the websites, because there's unbelievable amounts of information on those websites at both companies. Another thing too, if you bought a coin that's from an important collection, ask for the pedigree to put on the holder, because that'll make the coin worth more when you go to sell it. Bulk submissions, we talked about that already, so that's a complicated subject, but you can spend a lot of time on that, but ask for expert advice when you consider that. Also, the imaging services are wonderful at both companies. They're unbelievably good quality now. That's something that's fabulous. I mentioned the high value part before. Also, understand the grading guarantees. The back of those forms have almost a whole page of information about what they guarantee, what they don't guarantee, and how the guarantee process works. And I can tell you from experience, good and bad, that you need to understand those and read those before you really consider submitting really valuable coins. Also checking the turnaround times, and then payments. I mentioned that earlier. There's you can send in checks, but also if you're an established credit with them, you can get credit for the companies, and that can make it easier. If you're a really big, if you want to submit coins in quantity, that can be a lot easier for you than having to figure out a check every time you try to do that process. So I think that's it. So I think I covered all of it. I tried to rush through a little bit at the end because I wanted to leave a little bit of time for some questions. If Brianna had any questions that people maybe sent in.
Yeah, so you have a whole bunch of questions, but before we jump into them, first, thank you so much for this time that you put into this presentation. I know I definitely learned a lot, and I hope everybody else did as well. I'm going to go ahead and launch the survey. If you can go ahead and take the survey, everybody, it'll help us to improve our presentations and help the instructors as well. So please take that survey before you leave. So I'm just going to go down the line of the questions, and we'll answer a few of them with you here, Jeff. So it says, when sending a coin to a third-party grader, how can a submitter be sure of a grader's expertise? Most of us have heard graders spend about 30 seconds looking at a coin before grading it. How do we know they won't miss something if a coin is extremely rare or a rare coin is very similar to a common coin?
The question is, how can they do that in 30 seconds, essentially?
Yeah, so how do we, how can a submitter be sure of a grader's expertise is kind of the gist of the question.
that a little bit, and some of they use some of their better graders and people with expertise at the higher level. But I can assure you, I've actually worked with the grading companies. They look at the coins very carefully. Now, if they're working at a Silver Eagle, they'll do it in probably a few seconds. But if they have a very rare coin, they do spend the time on it, and 30 seconds is actually quite a bit of time. I can grade a coin very efficiently in that amount of time. I mean, most of these people have been grading coins. Some of them have decades of experience. So I don't think you don't think you have to worry about them doing it too fast. And just remember, these grading companies are warranting those values. So they're taking your money, but they're guaranteeing that grade. So I think that you can be assured based on the money that's at stake that they spend the time doing it.
What is the policy on buyback if the certification service misrepresents or mislabels a certification?
That's a really good question, and that's part of the grading guarantee that I mentioned earlier. So they have the grading guarantees. If you have a coin that you think is a problem, I actually see it occasionally where a coin I think is unattractive for the grade, or it looks really, they made a mistake. It's actually better for the coin business and also better for the companies that take those coins off the market. So they will look at the coin. You send it in for like I mentioned earlier, the guarantee of the regrade, and they will look at it. And if you think the coin should be, is a problem with it, they will consider it. And what they will do is they'll look at their. They both have their own grading guide or pricing guides. I'm sorry, price guides, and they will make refunds based on their price guides. Now it is obviously it's going to cost them money. So they're not going to let you send in a flood of coins. It's going to have to be something obvious, and you may have to even lobby for it to have someone else to help you with that process, because it's basically you're trying to cash in on the warranty, and that there's a little bit of a process to go through that. So I can't say it's easy, but it definitely happens all the time, and they spend a lot of money to get ugly coins off the market.
All right. Is one company better for errors over another?
I can't tell. I can't really speak to that. I think both companies can handle that very well, and I think for mint errors, I mentioned it's a complicated subject, but I think both companies do an excellent job at what they do.
Great. How do you get enough insurance to cover a rare coin? When I send coins out to the post office, it's an argument about proof of the value of my package.
Okay, so you can insure a registered package, I think, for up to $75,000. So it's like everything. So if that package were lost, you would probably need to have a receipt where you bought the coin. Now, if you just inherited a coin you think's rare, and it gets lost on the way, you could have trouble with the insurance trying to prove that coin was worth that. But then again, that's where I just said it's a very, very, I can't tell you how important it is. Take a picture with your either your phone or with some sort of device with a digital, and that will help you if you have a beautiful coin and you submit it, and it gets lost in the mail and in the shipping. If you have a photograph on it, that'll go a long ways for you helping getting your full insurance value for that piece. And of course, once it's on its way back from the grading company, they've already made an assessment of the coin, and the insurance would probably be based on the results of the grading.
All right. Can you comment a bit on the special pricing that dealers may receive for volume submissions?
I mentioned that earlier about that goes with bulk grading, and that really is they have rates, but some of those are negotiable depending on the amounts they are. So I would recommend, if you have coins that you want to do in bulk submission, that you call either one of the grading companies and ask to speak to a representative that would handle that, and they will walk you through that process, and they will explain to you, how many coins you have to have of something. You can even tell them you're maybe experienced or not experienced, and they will give you advice based on that. But I would say try to find a company representative at those companies that can help you with that information.
Is it possible that people could send real coins to dealers and get fake coins back after grading?
Send it to the grading companies or to a dealer? Which is the question?
It says to dealers, so I'm not sure.
Dealers, the grading companies, I can tell you 1,000% that you can send coins safely. I know these people for 40 years, 30, 40, 35 or 40 years. both NGC and PCGS, I'll personally vouch for that would never, ever, 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 ever happen. Now, as far as dealers, I'm not sure who you're dealing with, or I would, look for, anytime you deal with anybody to do anything to do with money, I would look for references and make sure you're getting somebody that can be, that's going to be, reputable, that you can deal with. But most of these companies, the grading companies will help you. If someone, they've got a list of dealers that they recommend that you can deal with on their sites, and I think they would pretty much tell you don't have to worry about anybody that's on their list, on their system.
Will an NGC conserved coin lower the coin's value or grade?
If you send a coin in to be for conservation, you're going to want the coin to be, you're going to assume that the coin is going to be looking better when you get it back. So I would say that is not the case. And in most cases, now, if you were foolish enough to send in a beautifully toned coin, they may have to tell you that, hey, you don't really want to conserve this coin. It looks better in the beautiful toning than it does if we were to dip it and make it brassy white.
What reference material would you recommend to help determine if a coin has been cleaned before submitting it for grading?
There's really no reference book that can tell you about cleaning that. So I would recommend that, obviously, if you can take some of these grading classes the ANA offers. And another thing you can do, I can give you some advice, is go to Heritage's website or Stack's Bauer's website or one of the other auction companies. They have a lot of coins they sell that are net graded because of cleaning, and you can look at those. That is probably the easiest access that you can find to figure that out, is to study that case, is go to the websites and look for coins that have cleaning. You can even type in 1884 silver dollar clean, and it'll probably come up in their database, and you can see those coins that have cleaning, and that'll give you some visual references that you can use anytime you can take classes on grading, that's good. And that's what they'll cover, is cleaning, but also you can do some research for yourself. But I don't think there's really a book on cleaning.
We'll do a few more. How do you determine what the raw value is for a coin? Your math said certified minus raw equals submission plus shipping.
So to figure out, so you'll have to figure out the grade to even come up with that some sort of estimate. There's a lot of different price guides. I write the price guide I'm the editor of the Red Book. Red Book's a great place to start. That can give you an idea of values. But at some point you still need to be able to do some comparison on quality. So to do the math, you're going to have to understand grading, or you're going to have an expert to help you with that process. So you really have to have those two pieces of the puzzle to make it happen.
Let's do one more. How does that sound?
I got plenty of time, so you can do a few more if you want.
On multi-submissions, are the questioned coins cracked out of the slab, or is it resubmitted in the slab typically?
Say that again?
On multi-submissions, are the questioned coins cracked out of the slab, or is it resubmitted in the slab?
I don't exactly understand the question, but you can send in. I think you have to, if you send in a coin that's either cracked out, that's one submission form. You can't. They have to be one or the other. So if you send it in for a coin in for reconsideration, that has to be on a separate form. The service you're wanting provided, it has to come with a different submission form for each one.
Yeah, hopefully. What do you charge for your services to assist a person? So I think they're asking you specifically.
That's a really good question. So I don't charge anything to help with those services, because usually most people who come to me wanting to have a coin certified are wanting to sell those coins eventually. So I offer that service for free to help people. And also I want people to not have a bad experience with the coin business. So in general, I would offer those services for free to somebody. I think most coin shops would help you with that for free. And I think it would be rare that someone would actually charge you a fee to do that. So I think that most people, unless you just say that you had no intention on selling the coins and you just want to know that, then I would say a highly paid expert would probably charge you $100 to $200 an hour to do like that kind of service, like the same as they would for an appraisal. But I do it for free.
All right, we'll do one more question. Can you explain bulk submissions again?
Bulk submissions. Well, bulk submissions is when you basically are sending in large quantities of a coin, mostly the same kind of coin. Let's say when I started off the class, it was talking about Franklin half dollars by the roll, and that is that you have to understand that how can the coins grade, how can they be the mathematics involved on it. But if you're interested in bulk submissions, what I recommend you do is to contact the grading companies and have them give you information on what you have. Like if you have boxes of proof sets, well, they're not going to do boxes of proof sets. It's not really applicable. If you have rolls and rolls of Morgan silver dollars, that's perfect because those coins are easy math and it's easy to figure out what they're worth in the different grading tiers. Because they just remember on bulk submissions, the big difference is they charge a different fee based on how the coin grades. So that's the big difference between bulk submissions and using the regular submission forms. So it's hopefully the mathematics is in your favor, that it helps you, get the best result, and also without having to, some of the coins will not be graded because they won't meet the minimum grade. So it's set up for that system, and I use it quite often, and but even myself, I have to sometimes call up and ask them for details about how that all works.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for your time. We really appreciate all the work that you put into this presentation. There have been a lot more questions that have come in, so I'm going to send them to you directly to answer, and then we'll get those out to everybody. Thank you to everybody who participated today. The next presentation we have is the Modern Minting Process Errors and Varieties by Sam Gilbert, and that's tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. There is still room in that class if you haven't registered for it. We also have a bunch of other classes that are coming up in the near future. I'm going to add the link right now to the chat. If you haven't gotten in and lately to check them out, please get on there. We have some the rest of this week, a few more in the rest of the month, a lot in August. So jump on there, see what you can find. And if you haven't finished the survey, please do so. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, and we'll see everybody soon. Thank you.